The roughest ocean on the planet. Waves as tall as buildings. A frozen continent at the bottom of the world with no ports, no rescue, and no way in for most of the year. And once a year, a single ship has to cross all of it to keep a handful of people at the end of the Earth alive. This is what life is actually like aboard an Antarctic supply ship. Antarctica is the coldest, driest, most isolated place humans have ever tried to live. Scattered across it are research stations, small clusters of people studying the ice, the sky, and the climate, cut off from the rest of the world for months at a time. They can't grow food. They can't make fuel. Everything they need to survive an entire year has to be carried in by sea, across the Southern Ocean, the most violent stretch of water on Earth. That job falls to the crews of ice-strengthened supply ships, and it is one of the hardest, most dangerous voyages left in the modern world. Stay with me, because the reason they can't just leave whenever they want is the part that surprises people most. It starts with the crossing. To reach Antarctica, the ship has to pass through the latitude sailors have feared for centuries, the Furious 50s and the screaming 60s. Down here, there's almost no land to slow the wind and waves. They just circle the entire planet, building and building, until the sea becomes a range of moving mountains. Waves can tower over the ship. It rolls so far onto its side that walking becomes climbing, and everything not bolted down goes flying. For days, sometimes weeks, the crew lives inside a washing machine. Sleep is a fight. Meals are a gamble. And there is no calm harbor to duck into, then say, because there is no land at all. Just the ship, the storm, and the long way down to the ice. So how do you sleep through that? Badly at first. Bunks have a cloth barrier called a lee cloth that you strap up like a wall, so the ship can roll without throwing you onto the floor. You sleep wedged in tight, one arm braced, your body fighting the motion even while you're out cold. Showering means bouncing off both walls. A cup of coffee is a two-handed operation and often a lost cause. New crew are violently seasick for days. There's no shame in it down here. The sea beats almost everyone at first. And through all of it, the ship has to keep going. Because on this voyage, there's a clock running that doesn't care how anyone feels, and that's the part people don't expect. These crews can't just come and go as they please. They're racing a deadline written by the ice itself. For a few short months, in the southern summer, the sea near Antarctica is open enough to reach. Then winter closes in, and the ocean itself begins to freeze solid, sealing the continent off from the world. If a ship lingers too long, the sea can literally trap it, locking it in ice for months or crushing it. So, the whole mission is a race. Get in, unload a year of supplies, and get out before the door slams shut. Miss the window, and either the ship is stuck, or a station full of people goes without what they need to survive the winter. There is no second delivery, which is why the ship carries almost unimaginable amounts of stuff. This isn't a grocery run. It's an entire year of survival for a whole base packed into one hull. Fuel to heat the buildings and run the generators through months of darkness. Food to feed everyone until the next summer. Vehicles, spare parts, medical supplies, scientific equipment, everything a small town at the bottom of the world could possibly need, with no way to reorder anything. If you're the kind of person who's ever wondered how people actually survive in the most extreme places on Earth, you're in the right place. Because this is survival stripped down to its rawest form. Forget one crucial item back in port and someone pays for it months later in the cold and the dark. Then comes the most dangerous part of the whole trip, getting all of it ashore. And often, there's no dock to tie up to. Sometimes the ship moors against the sea ice itself and crews drive vehicles and cargo straight across the frozen surface, trusting ice they can only hope is thick enough to hold. Sometimes everything is craned onto small boats or flown ashore by helicopter piece by piece for days. It happens in savage cold and wind, out in the open, racing the weather and the fading light. One crack in the ice, one shifting load, one storm rolling in, and a routine unload becomes a fight for survival. The crossing is brutal, but this is the part that keeps the captain awake, and there's a wind here, unlike anywhere else on Earth. Antarctica is essentially a giant dome of ice, and the freezing air sitting on top of it is so heavy, it pours down off the continent and out to sea like an invisible avalanche. They're called katabatic winds, and they can go from dead calm to hurricane force in minutes, with almost no warning. For a ship working close to the ice, they're terrifying. One moment the crew is craning drums onto the shelf in still air. The next, a wall of wind is screaming down off the continent, flattening the sea into spray, tearing at everything not tied down, and turning a routine job into an emergency. Out here, the land itself seems to breathe, and when it exhales, you get out of the way. Between the crossing and the unload, life settles into the strange rhythm of any ship at sea, just colder and more remote than almost anywhere else on the planet. There's the endless watch system, the hum of the engine, and one warm room at the center of it all, the mess. Down here, hot food isn't just fuel. It's morale, it's home, it's the one place everyone gathers while the freezing ocean claws at the hull outside. A good cook on an Antarctic run is worth their weight in gold. And the views. On a calm day, this becomes the most beautiful commute on Earth. Icebergs the size of cities drifting past, whales surfacing beside the hull, an emptiness so vast it changes people. Then the wind returns, and the sea reminds them exactly where they are, because there's one more thing hunting them out here: the ice itself. The Southern Ocean is littered with icebergs, some the size of small countries and countless smaller chunks that float almost invisibly low in the water. A single one hit at speed in the dark can tear a ship open. The ghost of the Titanic sails with every one of these crews, so they never stop watching. Radar sweeps, lookouts on the bridge, engines ready to throw the ship into a turn at a moment's notice. In fog, or in the long polar twilight, it becomes a slow, nerve-shredding game of dodging mountains you can barely see. For hours, for days, all the way to the ice and all the way back. And if something goes wrong out here, no one is coming quickly. This is the most isolated water on the planet. There are no Coast Guard stations nearby, no helicopters within range, no hospital for thousands of miles in any direction. If a crew member is badly hurt or falls seriously ill, the ship's officers become the doctors, working off a manual and a crackling radio link to physicians on a continent far away. For anything truly serious, the nearest real help can be a week of hard sailing through that same violent sea. Out here, the isolation isn't just a feeling. It's a hard, physical fact that shapes every decision the crew makes. But ask these crews what stays with them, and it's rarely the storms or the danger. It's the goodbye. On the way in, they carry the people who are about to be sealed on the ice for a year. Men and women who won't see a new face, a sunset, or the outside world until the ship comes back. On the way out, they carry the ones who just finished that year, blinking at strangers, relearning the world. And there's a moment on every trip when they're the last ship to leave before winter. They watch the station shrink behind them, a few tiny figures waving from the edge of the ice, and they know those people are now truly alone, with no way out until the sea thaws again. Many crews say that moment never leaves them, that no matter how many times they make the trip, watching those figures disappear into the white always feels the same. It's a strange, heavy thing to be someone's last link to the world, and then to sail away. So that's life aboard an Antarctic supply ship, crossing the roughest ocean on Earth, racing the freezing sea, dodging icebergs in the dark, and carrying an entire year of survival to the loneliest people on the planet, then sailing away as their last link to the world. The next time you see a photo from a research base at the bottom of the world, remember the ship and the crew that made it possible to be there at all. If you want to keep going, the next one is just as wild. How crews spend Christmas frozen into the ice at the end of the Earth. Thousands of miles from everyone they love. That video's right here.